Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So I got your message on WhatsApp on the telephone, and you were asking, you were asking, oh, let's see. Okay. That does it take long time? Like, say we have some clothes, dirty laundry, and do we have to just keep washing it and washing it and washing it and washing it, and with the idea that gradually we'll get all the stains out and the grime and all that. So
yes, correct.
The way I understand it, and you were saying till you break through some kind of wall and start to feel a sense of connection. Well, the way I see it, the way we're all individuals, but in my practical experience, it's not that it's not like a switch on the wall that's either on or off. It can be 100% dark and you turn the switch on and then it's 100% light. But it's not like that, at least for most people. I'd say almost all of us. If somebody was very, very advanced in their last life, but in forgetfulness in this life, forgetting about their past life, when they become, it seems that when people come in touch again with a bona fide spiritual master, or with our bona fide literature, the memory comes back of where they were in their last life. So some of us, the odd person might have been very advanced in their last life, but have not left the material world. And so they pick up where they left off, and it's very easy and very natural for them. Like one devotee I know, who he said, I said, how come you're moving in such a nice way in your Krishna consciousness? And he said, some of us, he said, hit the ground running, which means where that means in wartime, the paratroopers, the ones who use that device, a parachute, they jump from the plane. Well, they come down very quickly, and in order not to crash when they hit the ground, their legs are in a running position already. They're so that when they hit the ground, that impact is broken and distributed by a very fast sequence of steps. So that stops them from being jarred when their legs hit the ground. So he said, some of us hit the ground running. What he means is that I think it's an expression that people use that is already he's already primed. He's already his mindset, his heart set is already in a running position because he's been approaching Krishna consciousness in his previous lives. So he takes off from that position. But from what I can see in my own life and in my relationship with my God brothers, we're neophytes. We're really, really beginners. And I think Srila Prabhupada says our ability to be attracted is because we have been searching in different lifetimes, but we're still very neophyte. So when we come into that dark room, we don't just open the switch and all of a sudden it's bright, beautiful light. Actually, it's like a dimmer switch that you can just gradually, gradually, gradually. So your question was, and it's a very sensible question, does it take a whole long time to break through? It's not about breaking through. It's about obtaining or implementing a sense of connection. And when we do, it doesn't mean that we'll have all the ecstatic symptoms. When people talk about love, they're inclined to think either of, mundane romance, erotic love, infatuation, where a person falls madly in love. Actually, uh, that's not really love because it's wanting something. Love is not about wanting something. Love is only having a desire for the happiness of others and taking pleasure in the well-being of others. That's exactly what love is. Love is very selfless. It has nothing to do with what I want in return. If I want something in return, it's not pure. That's the contamination that we carry in our hearts. That's why the so-called love in the material world, Srila Prabhupada says, there is no love in the material world. He doesn't mean that we're incapable of feeling, of taking pleasure in the happiness of others. He doesn't mean that. What he means is that everything that most people do in the material world is because they want something in return. So he says it's not love, it's business. It's like, here's to you and here's to me. We're having a toast. and and if by chance we don't agree, to hell with you. And here's to me. Why are people they're becoming married, and in 6 months they're divorced because they're thinking that by being with this other person, all my desires are going to be fulfilled. In other words, they want something. They're not thinking about serving someone. They're thinking about fulfilling themselves. They may do some service, but they're happy and excited that they're getting what they want. That's lust. That's wanting something. So, but real love means taking happiness or enjoying the happiness and well-being, the happiness and well-being of others, taking pleasure in the happiness and well-being of others. And all of us have had that experience. When you do something for somebody and you're not really looking for anything in return, you're just enjoying uh, that the other person, you see, they have some need or some difficulty, and you lend a helping hand. I had to take my wife to a doctor in another city, and we were traveling at night. This was last month. And in the middle of the night on the darkest highway, where there's no overhead lights, the tire blew out. The tire blew out, and a flat tire. And in the dark, with no lights, I had to take the jack out of the trunk and which I don't do very often, even in the daytime, and fit it properly under the vehicle and jack up the car and free the lug nuts and get the tire off and put the and then it's not an old car at all, but we used the light system for the signal lights to let other cars know not to run into us in the dark. And apparently the battery was weak, and used up the entire battery. So now that the new tire was on the car, the temporary replacement tire, we tried to start the car and we couldn't start it. So I got out on the highway and I'm waving at the cars going by on the side, and somebody stopped. They didn't know who we were, but they just wanted to be of help, and they gave us a jump start like that. So we've all done things like that, and it makes you feel good. Just taking happiness, taking pleasure in the happiness and well-being of others. We've all done it, and we've all had that experience, and that's what love is. Taking pleasure in the happiness and well-being of others and wanting to be instrumental in that way. When that same feeling is applied to Krishna or Krishna's pure devotee, it's called bhakti. That's all that bhakti is. It's taking pleasure, feeling pleasure in the happiness and well-being of Krishna and Krishna's pure devotees. That's love. So we're not talking about ecstatic symptoms. We're not talking about our hair standing on end. We're not talking about shivering in the body, trembling. We're not talking about tears flowing from our eyes. like torrents of rain. We're not talking about these being choked up so that we can hardly talk. Those are symptoms of spiritual love at the highest advanced state. So the difference between spiritual love at the highest advanced state and the kind of love that we just described, in that highest advanced state, actually the devotees who are like that, they fight those feelings because all they really want is to be instrumental somehow or other in giving pleasure, in giving happiness to Krishna or Krishna's pure devotees. But when they have these desires, because their love is so purified, these ecstatic symptoms become manifest. But it's the same orientation. It's taking pleasure in Krishna's happiness, or taking pleasure in Krishna's pleasure, or in Krishna's pure devotee's pleasure. So, but the feeling, the orientation is the same. It's just that the purification is less. So what Srila Prabhupada says, is that I'm going to read something like that because I just got your message. I read it this morning. Here's something. It comes from Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Introduction, page 7 in the original book. Srila Prabhupada says, well, now we have a little sense of love. Why? It is due to love of Godhead. Anything which we find within our experience, even in this conditional life, it is situated, or in other words, it exists in the Supreme Lord, who is the ultimate source of everything. In our original relationship with the Supreme Lord, there is real love. That love is reflected. He's talking about our present condition. That same love is reflected through material conditions. It's being expressed through this body. It's being expressed through this mind. And it's being expressed through this intelligence, that material intelligence. But it's the same love, Srila Prabhupada. That love. So he's saying, we have a little sense of this love. Why? It's because due to the love of Godhead. In other words, and so anything that we have within our experience, even in this conditional life, it's situated in the Supreme Lord, who is, so he's saying, when we're in the spiritual world, we have this feeling of love. So when we have it here, it's the same love. In our original relationship with the Supreme Lord, there's real love, and that love is reflected. It's coming through our material condition, but reflected in a perverted way. He says, but reflected pervertedly and not exactly. In other words, it's not being expressed in its natural way. But it's the same love. So what happened? I'll read something. How does that work? How does that work? I made some notes. Uh, yeah, Srila Prabhupada explained in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 37, when a living entity comes in contact with the material creation, his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust. So that so there's a lot in that sentence. He's saying that when we come in touch with the material creation, we don't lose our love of Krishna. It can't be separated from us. But what happens is, he explains in this sentence, it becomes his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust. How does that happen? What lust is a self-centered desire, but it's the same love. So how does it happen? He says his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust in association with the mode of passion. Or, in other words, the sense of love of God becomes transformed into lust. So it's this same desire to have satisfaction, but what happens is when we come in touch with the mode of passion, the desire to serve Krishna becomes expressed as the desire to serve our senses and our mind, which is a subtle sense. The mind, a sense of my social popularity, how much people love me. I want to have the mind wants to be Krishna, to be adored by everyone, and when we don't get it, then we're not very pleased with other people. So, so he says, in association with the mode of passion, our eternal love for Krishna is transformed into this self-centered desire. We think that we actually, Krishna explains in the 3rd chapter that this orientation, this self-centered orientation that he calls kama or lust, Krishna calls it, he says it's the enemy. He says, like, when there's a war, the enemy takes over. It moves in and it takes over your buildings. It takes over your equipment. They take over uh, all your possessions, everything. They take hold of it. So he says that when this lusty is called like the enemy, he says it takes possession of the senses. It occupies. It occupies our senses. It moves in and it occupies this orientation, lusty, self-centered orientation. It occupies our senses. It occupies our mind, and it occupies our intelligence. Lusty intelligence. So, what is intelligence? It's our orientation towards life. So lusty intelligence, the mind's business is to accept and reject things. Accepting and rejecting are the occupation. But on what basis does it accept and reject things? A person a person in the mode of goodness, uh, he will accept milk and reject wine. A person in the mode of ignorance will reject milk and accept wine. So this accepting and rejecting. So, but it's according to some criterion. So the lusty intelligence gives us the conviction that if I gratify my senses, this will fulfill me. Imagine. Actually, the soul can only be fulfilled like a leaf on a tree that watering the root. A soul can only be fulfilled because we're part and parcel of Krishna. It's only when we try to please Krishna that we automatically become fulfilled. But under the influence of the material nature, we don't sense our connection with Krishna. We feel separate. And the material nature, the senses, the mind, and the intelligence, they hold this conviction. The intelligence holds the conviction that I will find my fulfillment. Instead of finding my fulfillment in Krishna's happiness and Srila Prabhupada's happiness, lusty intelligence holds the conviction without even thinking about it that if my senses are gratified, I'll be fulfilled. And we're all running around without even questioning it. So we're serving our senses instead of serving Krishna, and Krishna's pure devotee. So, but 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 this impulse to render service in order to get fulfillment is still there. It's the same, uh, uh, orientation that I can be happy by serving. But instead of serving Krishna and Krishna's pure devotee, we're serving the material energy. But we're trying to fulfill ourselves through service, but it's self-centered instead of watering the root. So he's saying it's never lost. So in another quote, Srila Prabhupada says in the Nectar of Devotion, he says the basic principle. This is the preface in Nectar of Devotion. The basic principle we just read, in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, introduction, Srila Prabhupada saying the same thing, that it is due to we have this sense of love in this life because it's due to the fact that love of God exists, and it exists in the spiritual world, but it's reflected through the material conditions in a perverted way. So he's saying if we want real transcendental love, we have to, and this is the word, we have to transfer that love. Instead of from loving our senses, we have to transfer the same desire to serve. We have to transfer that love to Krishna and Krishna's pure devotee. It's the same stuff. Only something happens. When we're in the mode of passion, we want to serve our senses and our false sense of self, our sense of, oh, we want to serve this mind, its desire for adoration and distinction, my social position, my possessions, like that. That's subtle and feeling really good egotistically because I'm a very wealthy person, or I'm a very beautiful, have a very beautiful body, or I'm very powerful in society. You know, these are subtle signification. So, but the thing, so this is very self-centered. But what happens when a person goes from the mode of passion, that's the mode of passion, to the mode of goodness? What happens? When a person goes to the mode of goodness, there's humanitarianism becomes a natural impulse. Philanthropic work becomes a natural impulse. Philanthropic work, altruism, humanitarian altruism, taking pleasure in other people's happiness. Altruism. You know, a man's a millionaire. He opens a school where people need education. He wants to feed the poor. He wants to open hospitals. He does not because he thinks he should. He enjoys being giving pleasure, taking pleasure in the happiness and well-being of others, giving clothing, giving education, giving food. There's volunteers. And where I live, there's 40. Stop. My alarm. There, where I live, there's forest fires for every year. So there's people who are volunteers for the volunteer firemen. There are people who donate their organs. Some people donate a kidney before they even lose their body. They live on one kidney. They're taking pleasure in the happiness of someone else. So this is when one moves from the mode of good passion, which is all about sense gratitude, me first, it becomes others first. That's why the mode of goodness is a stepping stone towards spiritual life. Others first, taking pleasure in the happiness of other, is the same orientation we have in spiritual life, but now it's directed towards other people. So when Srila Prabhupada says there's no love in the material world, why does he say that? He says that because he explains, if somebody's drowning and you dive into the water and you come back to shore with the man's hat and coat, but you leave the man to drown, you haven't really saved him. So when we try to, in the material concept of life, when we try to do good works, we're not really addressing the need of the soul. We're not really serving the person. We're serving the hat and coat of the soul. We're not really ending the problems, the miseries and the suffering of the soul. What we're doing, we're wanting to do good works. It says in the Bible, good works. But not by good works alone, it says in the Bible. But the idea is, just like some people say, Oh, my nation or my family. Taking pleasure in the happiness and well-being of my family. Then you expand it a little more. Maybe my race. I'm a black man. I'm a white man. I'm a Spanish man. I am whatever, whatever. Expand it to race. Expand it to nation. I serve my country. The other countries go to hell, but I serve my country. So these are all expansions of the false sense of self. I is the false sense of I. When it's expanded, becomes the false sense of mine. My family, my country, my nation, my this, my that. So in other words, although it is serving a false ego, it goes from being totally self-centered to one taking pleasure in the happiness of other. But because it's only an extension of our false ego or an expanded sense of self, an expanded sense of our false identity. It's an expanded sense of our false identity. Therefore, it's still lust. It's not love. But what is there now is the orientation of finding our fulfillment in the happiness and well-being of another, which when applied to Krishna and Krishna's pure devotee, that orientation is called bhakti. But it's the same orientation of taking pleasure. So that's why Srila Prabhupada explains why he wants us to develop Brahminical quality, because a Brahmin or a person in the mode of goodness, he has all these feelings of altruism. He has these feelings of humanitarianism. He has these feelings of philanthropic impulse. In other words, he has the serving mood to other instead of self is being awakened. So Srila Prabhupada says, under proper guidance, a Brahmin can become a Vaishnava. A person who's only interested in sense gratification, he doesn't have this orientation that I can become fulfilled by serving the needs of others. But a Brahmin, in the mode of goodness, this serving mood, it starts to come into focus within one's heart. Naturally, it's a symptom of the mode of goodness, but the intelligence is not purified. He doesn't know that our real self, and that I'm not this body, and that I'm spirit. So when the spirit spark tries to satisfy the spirit whole, the part and parcel automatically becomes fulfilled, becomes filled with spirit, just like when the leaf, the example in our scriptures, tries to water itself. That's the mode of passion. It's not getting water. It's on the tree, but it's watering itself, but it's not getting the water. And then the leaf in the mode of goodness wants to water the other leaves. But if one leaf on the tree, just one leaf starts to water the root of the tree, all the leaves get the benefit, and the watering leaf gets the fulfillment that he's been looking for all his life. And what we've been looking for, that fulfillment, and when we have that relationship of the part to the whole, that we're naturally a servant, we get the water, the taste, oh, the taste, the nectar of devotion. So so it's the same, very, very same orientation that the neophyte who is starting to have this feeling of relationship with God and or with God's representative. It's he's have the same orientation as the pure devotee who's in the highest state of devotion. He's not having ecstatic symptoms, but the orientation is identical. It's a matter of purification, gradual purification. So, so what and like Srila Prabhupada says, is explaining even an animal like a tiger has this loving propensity. This is nectar of devotion, at least in a dormant stage. And it's certainly present in the human beings. The missing point, however, is where to repose our love so that everyone can become happy. In other words, it's not instead of serving my senses or instead of serving the other leaves on the tree. And so in one quote, he's saying it's the same love, but transfer the account. You have money in this bank account and you transfer it to another bank account. But if you have nothing in the account, of course, you can't transfer it. But he's saying we have it. So we have to arouse within ourselves or cultivate within ourselves this, at least start with the conviction, at least start with the understanding or the conviction that my real fulfillment that I'm always looking for in so many ways, new house, new car, new job, bigger bank account, more money, more bigger, better relationship. Uh, uh, or we want to win the war. Our team, our side is better, and the other side we can kill them. But instead of thinking like that, to start to understand with conviction that, and everybody's just trying to be happy, but that's the influence of ignorance. So, so intelligence in the mode of goodness, one understands that the happiness I'm looking for is when I become a servant. So there are so many volunteer organizations in society. We have that volunteer firefighters in our neighborhood. They feel good doing service. There are people who volunteer their bodily organs. There are people who volunteer their wealth. There are people who open hospitals, people who open schools, people who feed the poor, people who give clothing. They enjoy, they feel good by serving other instead of being so self-centered. So when that sense of self is expanded to my race or my family or my nation, all illusory they're illusory because they're made of material energy and they can't endure. They come out of nature and they go back into nature. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The body is made up of dust. We have plants in our garden now. They're absorbing earth from the ground that's dissolved in water. And out of that earth that they're absorbing and those minerals, and ingredients, they're making leaves and flowers, and then they're becoming fruits and vegetables. So dust becomes food, and then we eat, and then that food becomes body. So our body is made of earth. And then when we leave the body, it becomes earth again, dust to dust. It starts as dust and it goes back to dust. So the Bible says, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. So it's not real. So we're serving illusory objects. We're giving them a special meaning. They call it reification. And our own sense of identity is becomes, but it's nothing. It's just a fabrication. So it's okay. So Srila Prabhupada's explaining, at our present moment, the human society teaches one to love his country or family or personal self, but there's no information where to repose that loving propensity so that we can really become happy. So the missing point is Krishna or God. And this is introduction to Nectar of Devotion. So it's the same feeling. It's not, but in its relatively, as it becomes more and more purified, then the pleasure of spiritual pleasure increases more and more and more. Then the rolling on the ground, then the raising of hairs on end, then the shivering in the body, then becoming stunned in ecstasy, then the throat being choked up with emotion, then tears coming through the eyes like torrents of rain, then singing and dancing like a madman without but it's the same love. But when we begin our spiritual life from a neophyte position, we immediately feel a sense of reciprocation. But the pleasure is tiny because we have still, the neophyte doesn't become a pure devotee. The neophyte still has so many subtle desires in his mind and his heart. But he's beginning to get the real thing, and his desire for it increases, and he keeps rendering more service, and he's getting more purified, and he gets a little more pleasure. Then he reaches a point where he stops his desire for gross material things. It starts to abate it starts to diminish. That's called anartha nivritti, and it's a progressive thing. So, but it's based on the release of gross material sense gratification is there because one is starting to have gratification spiritually. But there's subtle, just like what is subtle. An example of subtle sense gratification is that a person starts to grow spiritually. He can become quite austere by material standards, but the desire for adoration from others is still in his heart. And what does he want? Oh, he wants to become a guru. Imagine that. He says, oh, I would like to have the adoration and distinction and social benefit of being a very admired person in our Krishna consciousness society. So in other words, when a person does begin to transfer his serving mood away from material gross sense gratification, and then extended sense of self, of self, illusory sense of self, my nation, my race, my this, my that, my team. People have a team that they cheer for, football, baseball, whatever, basketball. And so a person going to a football game, he's cheering for his team. He's thinking his sense of self is now expanded, that this is my team. So I and mine. A false sense of I then becomes expanded to a false sense of I, gross sense gratification, me first. False sense of mine, my team, my he's an extended sense of extended false ego, extended false sense of self. So then they transfer that to spiritual, uh, to the real, because we are spirit and material things cannot love us back. That's what we get, a sense of reciprocation when the sense of service is transferred to spirit, because we are spirit, we're not material. So whatever we get materially, we get a little tingle, then we're off looking for something else. The millionaire feels great when his stocks come in, and it's increased tremendously in value, and he has $1 million. He invested 10,000, and the percentage of return was, now he feels great, but it only lasts for 5 minutes. He's back at his computer investing again. The millionaire wants two. The 2 millionaire wants four, because nothing material can satisfy us. It's like the leaf on the tree trying to water it. So when we transfer this same taking pleasure in the happiness of other, the extended sense of self, it becomes transferred to the real spiritual object of our love. Then we start to have a sense of reciprocation. It's that sense of reciprocation that we call the nectar of devotion. That when the love is focused on the real on that substance of which we are a part. We're a part of the spiritual substance. And when our devotion, when our desire to take pleasure in the well-being of God and his pure devotees, it is transferred that way, because we're part of spirit. We're part and parcel. The reciprocation, the sense of reciprocation, the pleasure of it is automatic. And we can take as much as we want. You can only take so much food, and your belly says no more. If you feel sick, if you force, you can only take so much sex. And you say, they'll put the most beautiful woman on the planet in front of you, say, forget it, no more, I don't want it. Enough is enough. You can take so much anything, but so materially we become disgusted very quickly. But spiritually, the pleasure just keeps increasing. So the neophyte is beginning to taste that. But there's still so much impurity, and as the impurity is there, impurity means ignorance is darkness, so the pleasure is tiny. But the more one serves in the real way, the more he becomes purified, and the pleasure keeps growing. The detachment keeps growing. So you were asking, what happens? So how does it, is it by doing, doing rounds? Am I chanting 16 rounds? Am I doing my deity puja? Waking their lordships in the morning, putting them to bed, bringing a glass of water, putting it on the altar in front of Srila Prabhupada. So many things. Okay, going out and distributing books because he wants it. The spiritual master wants to extend this knowledge to everybody. Doing, painting the temple room, washing the floor in the temple, cooking for the Sunday feast, doing. Is it doing? It's not exactly what we're doing, but it's what does it mean to transfer the account? It means to, so there's something that has to happen, a kind of refinement in our material senses and our material mind, our materialistic heart. Krishna talks about it. Remember this verse? So it's not that the feeling of love just comes in a neophyte position by doing all the things we're supposed to do and not doing all the things we're not supposed to do. But there's a kind of refinement of the material nature that enables us to do the simple things of Krishna consciousness in the right spirit, to do them in the right spirit. Now, if we take this verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, na sochati, na kankshati. Prasanatma means joyful within the heart. Prasanatma, joyful within the heart. Well, the next line, na sochati, na kankshati. Now, let's go to the punchline. Krishna says, Mad bhaktim labhate param. Now you can love me. Now you can have these feelings for me. Loving feelings. What is the loving? Now you can begin to take pleasure in my pleasure. But so he said, Krishna says the first thing is you have to be joyful. The next line says, na sochati, na kankshati. It says, now you have no more material desiring, hankering. Na sochati, na kankshati. No more material lamentation. How come there's no more material? Why is there no material hankering and no material lamentation? Why is it like that? It's just like we have to connect line 1 with line 2. Just like in the Lord's Prayer, Jesus says, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And the next line is, Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. What's the relationship between line 1 and line 2? He's saying that if we begin to make the sound vibration, every religion makes the sound vibration of the names of God. He's saying that because the name of God is powerful spiritually, it's hallowed. Hallowed be thy name. And if we vibrate it, it will create a beautiful atmosphere in our hearts and in the world. They're not connecting line 1 with line 2. In the same way, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochati Nakangshati. That if we become joyful within our hearts, our hankering and lamenting will go away. Why? Our hankering and lamentation will go away because we're all, what is hankering about? It's looking for satisfaction, inner fulfillment. What is lamentation all about? Lamentation is, if only the past was different, I'd be happy today. I'd be fulfilled today. So it means that everyone is looking for fulfillment, but they're looking, hankering means if I can get this, if I can attain this, if I can obtain something, that means living in the future, thinking that my satisfaction is in things outside of myself, that I can get them in the future. And lamentation is, I can find, I could have been fulfilled today if my past was different. But a person who's joyful is fulfilled. So a person who's joyful, prasanatma, is automatically nasochati, nakangshati. A person who is joyful within their heart, brahmabhuta prasanatma, nasochati, nakangshati. It's like saying a person who's fulfilled is fulfilled. There's two ways of saying the same thing. So he says, well, then the Prabhupada says, you know, there's this part in Ishopanishad where there's this verse where the person begins to accept their spiritual nature. He says, like unto the sun as am I. Like unto the sun as am I. Accepting, embracing the understanding of our own spiritual beauty. It's our own spiritual beauty is joyful. So Srila Prabhupada uses this phrase, this aphorism, and this succinct statement, that Vedic statement that holds so much wisdom. Atmavan manyate jagat. Van, just like in the word Bhagavan. Bhagavan, we use these words. Bhaga means opulence. Bhaga, opulence. Wealth, power, strength, beauty, knowledge, fame, renunciation, equanimity. These are opulences. Bhaga. Van means the possessor of these opulences. So the Supreme Lord is the possessor of all these opulences. That's the meaning of Bhagavan. That personality who possesses all these opulences to an unlimited degree that's the meaning of God. So we say Atmavan. Atmavan manyate jagat. Jagat means the universe, the creation. We say that Srila Prabhupada is the Jagat Guru, the teacher, the guru of the whole creation, Jagat. Atmavan manyate jagat. Man means the mind. Atmavan manyate jagat means according to the qualities of our mind. That's how we see the whole world. According to the condition of our own mind. when the mind is beautified. What is that beautified? Joyful. When when the mind is joyful, on the one hand, if immediately fulfilled, that's what we've been looking for in everything, every thought, every word we speak, and every deed that we do in this world. We're looking to become fulfilled, joyful. So the person who's joyful stops hankering and lamenting, and he's experiencing his own beauty. Atmavan Manyateja. He sees the beauty in others. That's the next line. Samar sarveshu bhuteshu. Brahma bhuta prasanatma, joyfulness. Na sochati na kankshati, no hankering, no more lamenting, because he's got it, everything he was. And he sees the beauty, Atmavan Manyate Jagat, in terms of the condition of his own heart. He sees the beauty in all others. Samasarveshu bhuteshu. All these lines are the same, connected. They're just different ways of expressing the same condition of the heart. And Krishna says, when you become joyful in your heart, and your hankering and lamenting for material gratification stop, and you begin to see the beauty in everybody else because you understand the beauty in yourself, then you become qualified to be a devotee. So he says that joyfulness is a prerequisite to devotional life. So there was one lecture that Srila Prabhupada gave, and somebody asked the question. Let's see if I can find it in my notes. Hey, then I could read it. No, as usual, trying to find these things on paper. But the idea is, oh, here it is. The name is Just Pretend. Okay, Just Pretend. That should be the title of today's talk. Yeah, I heard on YouTube a quote. I didn't get the write down the date and of the lecture. One devotee says to Srila Prabhupada, "What if I don't have a sense of enthusiasm?" And so Srila Prabhupada answered, just pretend that you're enthusiastic. Just pretend that you're enthusiastic. In other words, as much as one adopts an attitude of enthusiasm, and Srila Rupa Goswami, he talks about that, utsahan. He's saying if you want to become a devotee, you just got to be enthusiastic. But enthusiastic is taking up. So, in other words, as much as one adopts an attitude of enthusiasm, one will taste. Srila Prabhupada says you can't lick the outside of the bottle and taste the honey. You have to enter into it. It means adopting the whole spirit of what it's like to be a devotee. He says, just pretend. He says, that you're enthusiastic. And as much as one adopts an attitude of enthusiasm, one will taste that honey. I don't want to read everything here, but it says, if one simply pretends, that we're with Srila Prabhupada in his presence. Simply pretend. It's just like a child who has an imaginary friend, all right? And he's trying to please his friend. The only thing is the child is imagining, but Srila Prabhupada is real. So just by adopting that attitude, you immediately begin to feel his presence. As much as we embrace the understanding that this is a reality, it's like that's why the Srila Rupa Goswami says, what's the next word besides enthusiasm? Engaging with enthusiasm, with joyfulness, with going for it. He says, confidence. So, but confidence doesn't mean confidence in myself. Where is that? Yeah, I wanted to do the Sanskrit of that. Anyway, he says the second word is confidence. But he says confidence means confident that Srila Prabhupada or Krishna is aware of us and aware of the orientation of our heart, and that he'll reciprocate, that this is real. This is so first thing is enthusiasm, and the next thing is confidence, and the next thing is patience. But where does the patience come from? It comes from that if I engage with a joyful enthusiasm and faith, which is what confidence really means, I'll proportionately in the moment Krishna says to live in the present moment, not in living in the future, hankering, not living in the past, lamenting. Joyfulness is in the moment. So he says, patience. If the enthusiasm is there and the faith is there, and one engages with it in a joyful mood, because he'll taste the nectar of devotion. It's not that devotion begets nectar. The nectar is inseparable from the devotion, because the leaf on the tree is watering the root. It's instantaneous. It's instantaneous. It may not be the hair standing on end and rolling on the ground, but one will feel immediately a sense of reciprocation with the absolute, which is so it's more pleasing than any other type of sense gratification, subtle or gross. It's so sweet that it makes one want more. And that's the beginning, but the price one has to pay. When we would go to a nightclub when I was a non-devotee, I'm still not a devotee, but I'm working on it. Of course, we should assert that I am a devotee. We should assert like that. But when we would go to a club, we would have to pay something just to get in. Never mind the food and drink or whatever, just to get in. So there's a cover, it's called a cover charge. So the cover charge for getting into this arena that we're talking about is to do everything with a joyful heart. That's the price one has to pay. The joyful heart is what is the basis of enthusiasm, utsahan. The joyful heart is the expression of faith. So if one engages with joyfulness, the enthusiasm is automatically there, the faith is automatically there, and because it gives an immediate taste of reciprocation, one can be patient. Because impatience means I have to look somewhere else for my fulfillment. Patience means I'm getting it. Patience is not an austerity. Patience means I'm getting what I'm looking for. I'm getting the taste, the nectar of devotion. So, yeah, you sit in front of a picture of Srila Prabhupada, and he's got a beautiful smile. And you can see that he's filled with love for Krishna. He's filled with love for us. He's joyful. And he's saying, he's explaining that our devotion to Krishna, we express it by having devotion towards Krishna's pure devotee. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasada. When Krishna says that one who claims to be my devotee is not my devotee, but one who's the devotee of my devotee is the real devotee. Jesus says the same thing in the Bible. There's no way to the Father except through me. Doesn't mean that Jesus is God. I and my Father are one doesn't mean that Jesus is God. It means that whatever God wants, Jesus wants. Not my will, but thy will. Whatever you want, I'll do it for you because that's all I want. And Krishna says that one who's the devotee of my devotee, everything we offer to Srila Prabhupada offers to Krishna. Joyfully. He accepts our service, which is filled with impurity because it's a process of purification, and he takes the best of it and he offers it through the disciplic succession, going back to Krishna, up to Krishna. So we're sitting in front of our beautiful picture of Srila Prabhupada, and we, that nectar of instruction to share your mind with the pure devotee, with other devotees. We can relate to Srila. We should talk to Srila Prabhupada every day. Express our heart to him. Tell him what we want, how we want to grow. Tell him we want understanding, please, and tell him what we're going through. Share our feelings with him. Talk to him. And begin to understand the more that he's present. So if we approach him with joyful enthusiasm, Krishna says, when you're joyful, you can have devotional feelings. Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada says, you got to be enthusiastic. Add 1 and 1 is 2. Joyfulness and enthusiasm equals joyful enthusiasm. If one approaches Srila Prabhupada with joyful enthusiasm to that degree, the neophyte begins to sense Srila Prabhupada's presence, begins to sense Srila Prabhupada's Krishna consciousness, his joyfulness, his enthusiasm. And in that way, our little joyfulness starts to become expanded. We begin learning from him. You catch it. You catch it. You, no matter who you relate to, who you're in association with, you're influenced by the way they feel. We become influenced by the way others feel. That's why that's why association with a pure devotee is the way to grow spiritually, because we become influenced by the way he feels. So Srila Prabhupada says we become infected with his devotional feeling, his joy in Krishna consciousness. But the beginning is, and it grows and grows. Srila Prabhupada explains that in 1.525. It goes from stage to stage to stage, always in his association, becoming more purified. And with the as our own spiritual inclination or ability grows, and we serve with that enhanced feeling, increased feeling, Srila Prabhupada reveals more of himself to us. And as we reveal, then we imbibe more of his feeling. Srila Prabhupada says, to become infected with the qualities of a pure devotee, quote unquote, means to imbibe the taste of devotion in the association of someone who has that taste. But to be first, we have to have a relationship with him before he reveals himself to us. That revelation is automatic as soon as we feel his presence. So, but the price or the cover charge for feeling his presence is to approach him with a joyful heart filled with enthusiasm. So it's the kind of a leap of faith. It means we don't have the experience yet, but we believe that this is a reality, and we approach him as if we did have it. And we sense his presence as much as we approach him with joyful enthusiasm. That's what it means. Tadvidi pranipatena paraprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnani. Just approach a bona fide spiritual master, jnani, a tattvadarshi, someone who has seen the truth and is joyful as a result. A real spiritual master is one who has a living relationship with Krishna. Pranipatena, paraprashnena, upadekshyanti te jnanam, jnaninas tattvadarsh. He has that, he can give you this knowledge because he's a tattvadarsh. Darshan means to have the association. He has the association of the tattva, the Mahatattva, the absolute truth. He's a Tattvadarshi. He has this association of Krishna. So he's filled with this spiritual bliss. So he says, you approach someone like that, but he can impart knowledge unto you. What is that knowledge? He's sharing his heart with us. We got to get the taste of it from him, but we have to do it. How do we get it from him? We got to pay the cover charge. Pranipatena, be very humble. Paraprashnena seva, be in a very submissive mood. Inquiry. What is the inquiry? Inquire from him submissively. What is the what is this love of Krishna? So he said, what is this love of Krishna? But how does one ask it? Can we demand it? No, we have to be so submissive. What measure of submissiveness? Submissiveness, total acceptance that he has it and he can share it. And with throwing our reservations aside and approaching him with joyful enthusiasm, with a total open heart. No more, not an ounce of self-protection, not an ounce throwing aside our doubts, and just approaching him with a total joyful enthusiasm. That is the measure of submissiveness. That's the submissiveness. And the real inquiry is, please let me understand what this feeling of love for Krishna is. Pranipatena. Approach him, inquire about that love, and show total submissiveness, inquire submissively, and then render service unto him means to engage in Krishna consciousness with the taste that he's sharing with us. Inquiry, submission, and service. And Srila Prabhupada says in his purport to 434 that the nonsense questions are useless, and blind following, mechanically doing everything is useless. No one has to get a real knowledge in inquiry, submission, and service. He says, when last two sentences, that the spiritual master is very kind, and when he sees that the student or disciple is very sincere and very submissive and always ready to render a service, then the reciprocation of that inquiry and that blessing or benediction of knowledge it becomes perfect. So it's a relationship. It's not that I go out and lift 10 pounds and carry this or do that, and then the report is there, and then somebody sends me a check or something. No, it's a personal, it's that the blessing will come in the future. It's in the moment. It's in the moment. It's called the nectar of devotion, because as soon as our serving mood is toward the real object of our love or affection. But a person who has joyful enthusiasm, it's that same old song that I keep singing that was sung by a very famous movie actress, Doris Day. Everybody loves a lover. I'm a lover. Everybody loves me. Anyway, that's how I feel. Atmavan manyate jagat. A person who has love in their heart anticipates and feels love coming from all directions towards them. As soon the amount of joyful enthusiasm with which we approach Srila Prabhupada, that's how much we'll feel his love for us. And that's the ticket. It's not that when I become realized, I'll become joyful. It's not that when I do ABC, that then I'll get blessed, benedicted with realization, and then I'll become joyful. It's when I become joyful that I'll have this realization. It's not a mechanical process of scoring points or or getting a salary or getting paid for doing something, and then I can enjoy what I'm getting, spending the money. It's the immediate reciprocation. That's what he's saying in 434, that our whole philosophy, it's transcendental to space and time. It's in the moment. Krishna says, you can have this feeling of devotion to me when there's no more hankering and no more, when you're not living in the future and you're not living in the past, when you're in the present moment, feeling the joy in your heart, and you approach in this way. A person who has joyfulness in the heart just wants to share it. You can't be joyful in your heart and just hold it in your heart. You naturally want to share it. There are people who go around hugging trees. Of course, it's better to, if you can see them as pure spirit soul, that's wonderful. So, but I'm trying very much how to answer the question that you're posing. How does one come to, what does it happen that after doing sadhana bhakti, collecting points for 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, that's something. No, it's when I understand that and accept. That's why Srila Prabhupada says that one can be Krishna conscious in a second, and it's only a matter of understanding and accepting. And what is the measure of our acceptance? The measure of our acceptance is how much we begin to engage with joyful enthusiasm. That means we've accepted it. We've totally accepted. We say, this is real. I accept it. And so if we approach Srila Prabhupada with joyful enthusiasm, chanting for his pleasure, to that we'll feel his joy, we'll feel his presence. And it's sweeter than anything we've had materially, and it makes us want more, and we will forget. And we will fall back into our, what's the word I'm looking for? Our habitual ways of thinking, feeling, and willing. We will forget, but we'll come back again. That's why we do sadhana. We're practicing. We're practicing the adoption of the right demeanor, and it's an apprenticeship program, because in his doing it in his association, under his guidance, means that he's giving us the flavor with which we engage. He's sharing that with us. That's why he's the way and the truth and the life of our spiritual life. He's the life of ours. So there's one song in our songbook. If you're not merciful to me, I can only weep. Oh, when, you who have the nectar, taste the nectar of the name, when will I hold your feet till the end of time? When will that day be mine? Because I'm always forgetful. I know you got it. And I've had a little taste of your association. When will I stay there? And another prayer in our songbook says, oh, he says, I offer you everything, my heart, that so I may have the energy by which I can understand your heart. Then I can begin to chant Hare Krishna, with these devotional feelings, and then my offenses will cease. From him, ecstatic prayer emanates. And if we can catch it by him in that way, our ignorance is destroyed. So it's all based on this personal relationship. But he's not hiding from us. He's waiting for us. But it's not taught that way in our temples. Because people think materially, they're taking the teachings in our books and in Srila Prabhupada's lectures and putting their spin on it. They're saying that if I do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the whole checklist, one day the bolt of lightning will come and I'll have this joyful I'll have this realization and then I'll be joyful. And our books are saying, and the truth is that when I have joyful enthusiasm, joyful acceptance, then the realization will be there in the moment, proportionately. And what is that? That is that the nectar that we're after is in the devotion that we feel. It's the nectar of devotion. It's in the present moment. So we should go back to what we read in the beginning, last sentence. I'm going to speak today because you don't feel this enthusiasm, Srila Prabhupada said, pretend. Because as soon as you adopt this mood, you'll feel his presence. Try it on for size. I hope I can be helpful a little bit in that way. Do I have it? A little bit. Enough to make me go back every day and look for more. Am I forgetful? All the time. Am I distracted? Am I fruitive about the outcome of my activities? Am I concerned about gain and loss? Of course. Do I get frustrated when things don't work? Yeah. I become annoyed and impatient? Yes. Am I a neophyte? Yes. But it didn't have to take 50 years, 40, 50 years to begin to apply what I'm trying to talk about in this discussion. One can do it from day one. Or one can wait 50 years or 50 births. But it's only when one does it, begins to do it, that one begins to taste the nectar of devotion. And anyone can do it. In a second. It's simple for the simple. It's simply a question of understanding and accepting. And the measure of our acceptance, joyful enthusiasm is the measure of our acceptance. So we're encouraged to make that experiment and not continue to be a blind follower. Blind following is discouraged. Joyful enthusiasm is encouraged. Hare Krishna.
Another knockout punch for the false ego. Great stuff.
We all got one.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much for so many transcendentally wonderful, beautiful bombs, especially that one. I don't have any enthusiasm what to do. Just
But,
pretend.
but
That's amazing,
yeah,
huh? Just
no,
pretend.
but you and me, your questions are making me think. How can I answer what, I'm trying to, it's not just theory, It's like something you can grab hold of and check it out,
Yeah.
experiment with.
Mhm.
Nobody sees you. You're in your room.
Yeah.
You got your altar. You got your, you know, check it.
Yeah.
Try that. Approach Srila Prabhupada. Don't just chant Hare Krishna. Chant for his pleasure. Really try to chant in front of him, in front of a beautiful picture of Srila Prabhupada. Chant for his pleasure. You do this every day, you'll have moments where you'll feel his presence. You'll feel that he's enjoying. He loves the sound of the holy name. It gives him pleasure. You put a garland of flowers on Srila Prabhupada, garland him with the holy name, surround him with the sound vibration of the holy name. As a meditation with the mantra, it's very personal. He's not hiding, he's waiting, and he'll reciprocate. Check it out.
Yeah. Do you have time for a question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Half half-heartedly. My question is, why wouldn't anybody want to feel enthusiastic? I mean, basically, what we've
Doubt,
come. Hmm.
doubt. We don't believe it's real. That's why we have to have conviction. Srila Prabhupada says, like Brahma Bhuta, believing that I'm pure spirit soul and not this mind, believing that I'm effulgent. Can't you see it? And I'm being silly, but accepting our divinity, embracing it. Like Srila Prabhupada said, a devotee approaches Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, I'm so fallen, I'm so this. He says, you're so nothing. You're pure spirit. So, so we have to contemplate these things as, wow, I'm pure spirit. I'm Krishna. I'm not the whole Krishna, but I'm part and parcel. Infinitesimal spiritual spark with all the spiritual quality of Krishna, tiny, but I'm Krishna, Aham Brahmasmi, I'm spirit. How do I walk around thinking I'm spirit? Or do we walk around feeling uh, I, I'm, this body and I have so many frustrations and unfulfillments and I feel badly about myself and I judge myself. All these judgments about self, they're to be thrown in the garbage. These judgments are lies. So, yeah, yeah. This body, mind, and feelings are all part of a dream of flimsy things that pass us by, a wonder to be seen. And I, eternal consciousness, forever glad and free, and take to myself this grand charade and take it to be me. Poet, Ishan Das.
Very nice. Very beautiful.
It's true.
Yes.
So we have to assert. We have to assert ourselves that I'm not this garbage. I am pure spirit soul and I'm filled with joyful enthusiasm for service. So because it's adopting Krishna consciousness. This Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. It's our real consciousness. So we're invited to adopt it. It's not something that 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 is unnatural or artificial. It's what we really are. So therefore it's only a matter of understanding it and accepting it, quote unquote. We hear these things and read them over and over again, but I'm trying to explain in a little way uh, what does it all mean? It means that one can do it in a second, and it's only a matter of understanding and accepting to embrace the reality. That's what's the word I'm looking for? Amazing that it could be that simple. The only thing in the way of our realization is that we're not accepting it, embracing it, trying it on, being it. Because as soon as we be it, there will be a reciprocation. That's amazing that it can be that simple.
But I still, it
But
seems it seems like people, including myself, are not accepting it because we still actually, although we're accepting the process and Krishna consciousness, we still want to enjoy separately from Krishna.
that's another, that's another issue. That's what got us here. But now we're understanding, we're because we're being told that it ain't going to work. It's not going to work, and it's cheap. It you know Srila, that's cheating because because uh, because our love is really meant for Krishna, because he only created us for that purpose and nothing else, but we want to take it somewhere else. So but Srila Prabhupada says if we're cheating like that, Krishna is the greatest cheater. He will make us attached to illusory conceptions and we'll pursue them until we're blue in the face, but or whatever, and we'll keep going in the cycle of birth and death. So we have to become, just like I tell people, a man tells he's smoking a cigarette. I say to him, I meet him in the parking lot outside of the hardware store. I say, this stuff is going to kill you. He says, well, I can't stop. I said, there's a secret to wanting to stop. I said, there's a secret. He said, what's that? I said, these people, they're they're making these cigarettes on beautiful packages and colors and advertising and telling you they're going to make you happy. And they're selling, taking money from you, and they're putting cancer in your lungs, and they don't care about you. They're just trying, they'll do anything to exploit you. You have to become angry enough to say, take your cigarettes and put them. Now, then you'll be able to, it's the same thing. Maya is saying, come on, come on. And then slapping, come on. You have to I'm not, no, I'm not going to fall for it. I have this feeling that's Maya's probing me, saying, yes, I'm going to make you very happy. But we have to use our intelligence enough to say, no more of, I've been doing this. What? And getting nothing from it, getting only pain and suffering. So we have to be intelligent like that and keep priming our intelligence, hearing from Srila Prabhupada, reading, chanting. You know, we're babies, so it's very easy for us to lose as soon as we lose that sense of connection, Maya moves in, So those are all called contributing doubts, meaning not, not having the full faith, the doubt and faith, faith and doubt. That doubt is there to the degree that the faith is not there. The degree that faith is there, the doubt disappears. We have to assert. We have to assert. He says it's making a war. We're fighting for our life, making a war again. But Maya comes in really sweet, just a little of this, take a little of that, enjoy me, enjoy me. And Maya's seducing us, but that's when the soldiers at war, but the enemy, they send in
Ladies.
beautiful lady who's got poison on her lips. Come and kiss me. So that's the way they do that. That there are in high class circles, in ancient times, etc. They women who are groomed like that from childhood to carry so much poison and then go and find the king or the commander in chief of the army and say, "Come on, I'm on." Come and enjoy me.
I mean,
so,
ask for face the same thing.
yeah. So then that thinking that but we know, um, we're gonna have to we taking responsibility. We're gonna have to live with whatever happens, and we can get lost. We can get lost. Maya can cover us. We have to show Krishna that we really want. Show Srila Prabhupada that we really want. And then he'll give us more intelligence. We have to try. But when we make that personal connection, it gives us that little taste, and we'll get lost, but now we're crawling back for I want to be with you. I want to be with you. But that I want to be with you is based on having had a little bit of a sense of his association. And the desire is there. That becomes, it drags us. He drags us. He drags us back home, And so we have to realize soberly our predicament and make a decision. And then Krishna says, and now I've explained everything to you. Now do what you like. Do what you like. he wants to help us. And it's up to us. The ball's in our court. You, me.
Yeah.
And if we haven't had enough suffering, we can have another taste,
Little more. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Valuable time and valuable experience.
No, it's not like that. But if you let me talk to you like this, it's helpful to me. It's as helpful to me as it might be helpful to you. It's a wonderful thing, and I can only be absorbed in that wonderful thing if I have someone I can share it with, It's like that's the process.
Oh,
We need each other.
absolutely.
All right.
Jai
Sure.
Srila Prabhupada Ki. Thank you so much, Ishan Prabhu.
Thank you.
See you next week. Have a wonderful day.
Uh, thank you. You too. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.